Hello and welcome to the MJ Take, here for my spoiler review for Ant-Man and the Wasp: QUANTUMANIA, which I already will argue is the most polarizing MCU movie to date. Which I've been saying a lot in the last, 2 years. I felt like Thor: Love and Thunder might have been the most polarizing. Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness was also pretty polarizing. Eternals, kind of, but I think most people were mostly disappointed and bored with Eternals. But this one is really sparking debate. But people are really leaning negative. Now you're talking about the Rotten Tomato score for this movie. Now, critically being under 50%, the audience score, last I checked, was about 82%. I want to see what the cinema score is for this movie because I'm not sure. I think that audience score is a little inflated, just objectively speaking, because I don't have a rooting interest here. I feel like the maybe 60%, 65% is more of an accurate number in terms of audience rating, which will be like a B cinema score. We'll see if it's a B plus or an A minus. Okay, that's what an 80% should be. It should be at least like a B plus, A minus cinema score. I don't think we're going to see that. Could be a B, B minus. This was a disappointing movie, but I'm also not going to completely trash this movie. In fact, I would actually give this a fresh tomato if I had the option, and hopefully one day I do. Now, I'm going to get into spoilers here, but just a quick non-spoiler review. Again, it was certainly disappointing because I had high expectations. I was expecting this to be a great launch point for the MCU for Phase 5. I was expecting to have a great introduction for King the Conqueror and everything that he's going to do in the upcoming MCU films, and it wasn't quite that. But also with that said, Jonathan Majors does provide a great performance. Paul Rudd does his thing. It's just narratively and some of the visual effect choices were not strong enough. So let's get into specific story points. Really, that's the problem that most people have with this film. But, I think story-wise, I think we just had too lofty expectations. I saw when the runtime came out as 2 hours, 5 minutes. When I first saw that, that was my first red flag to say, uh-oh, do we have another Multiverse of Madness situation here? Because we were expecting a lot from Multiverse of Madness. When you saw those trailers, when you saw the Illuminati, when you saw us, really breaking into the multiverse and the multiple Doctor Strangers, your imagination ran wild. But then you looked at the actual movie, Illuminati was barely in there. The evil Doctor Strange was barely in there. It was still a good movie, in my opinion, but the lofty expectations weren't met in the 2-hour runtime when it came out before the movie. You said, wait a minute, I thought there was going to be more in this movie. Wait a minute, we only traveled to about 2 or 3 universes in that movie, or at least spent time in them. So what really did we see? We didn't see much. And in this movie, we didn't see much. In fact, I loved the trailers for this movie. Oh my God, I love the trailers for this movie. The problem is, it literally was a whole movie. With this film and with Doctor Strange's Multiverse of Madness, way too much was shown in the trailer. And I thought that might be the case, but I also thought, no, there's no way they're really showing us the Kang versus Ant-Man Act 3. No, they did. The only thing that was not in it was the rebellion aspect of it and how it ends. Just really like the last maybe then 5 minutes of the fight. Maybe even that, but even then, you saw, Kang stomping on Ant-Man, Ant-Man saying we both have to lose. That's literally the last 10 minutes of the movie. You should never really have anything from the last 10 minutes of your film in any trailer ever. You really should never have it. Did we not learn from Batman v Superman, Doomsday? And by the way, Doomsday showed up and that was like at least 30 minutes and we all had a problem with that. So why are we showing the Kang versus it? And look, it was a great billing point. It was a great selling point for this film. It was a great idea in terms of, what's going to sell the movie, but it's the whole movie. So you're just anticipating this final, reveal for when Kang's finally going to go evil and all this. I would have gone, first of all, I would have rewritten the story, but I really think it should have been hinted that Kang was going to go evil. Those of us that are comic book nerds would have known this. But it really should have been more of a surprise to me because when he finally turns, you're expecting it. And then by the final fight, I think it was a good fight between Kang and Ant-Man. But it just, since we already saw so much in the trailer, it just didn't hit. When Kang was really on his, on his tirade, when he was actually, doing the action, it was good. Didn't last long enough. So you really went through, I thought the first act of the movie was pretty good, set up the story very well, except for, Michelle Pfeiffer's character, Janet Van Dyne. She kept, really evading what was exactly going on. And, it's you setting up, Kang and his appearance and what's going to go on. I mean, this really is a Kang setup film. But this is also supposed to be the third of an Ant-Man trilogy here. I don't know if they're going to come up with an Ant-Man 4. If they do, it should go straight to Disney Plus, because I don't think anyone's particularly interested in seeing an Ant-Man 4. This easily should have been the end of this trilogy. I thought Ant-Man should have possibly died in this film. Someone definitely should have died in this film to reinforce how dangerous Kang is as an entity. No one did. Disappointment there. So first act was fine, good setup. I liked, Kang's twist and turn whenever you saw that in the flashbacks with Michelle Pfeiffer. But, man, the supporting characters, when you go into the quantum realm in general, the visual effects for the quantum realm, too much CGI. The supporting characters were terrible. I can't even remember what the woman's name is that looks like, some sort of Amazonian. I don't remember her name. I don't care. Awful. Terrible actress. I'm sorry. Terrible performance. One note. Awful. I liked the mind reader. I can't remember his name in real life, but I like him as an actor. He was underplayed here. This is his introduction to the MCU. I think his name's William something Henry. You could have used him way more than this. Nothing there. You're supposed to care about David Dastmalchian as the guy, as the the weird creature that was giving the ooze, just as a nice little bit. And then the funny bit at the end, it wasn't really that funny. They were terrible. They were awful. And that is where the Star Wars comparisons are coming through. You had these goofy alien-looking characters that we were supposed to care about, but you really didn't. It was just really bizarre, really strange, really odd. Why are we here? Why do we care? And it was different than like a Thor Ragnarok, where, we're meeting these Asgardians, and they're weird and quirky like a Korg or a Meek, but they're endearing, they're humorous. You want to know more about them, but you don't want to know too much. We don't need to know more much about Korg and Meek. They're funny, they're there. There's not too many of them. We just had to pay attention to Tessa Thompson's Valkyrie, Korg, and Meek. Boom. 3 compelling characters, side characters we met as Guardians. Great. We're rocking and rolling. Even, the henchmen, Hela's henchmen in Ragnarok was good. No one cared about any of these supporting characters, side characters in the quantum realm. They were terrible. Terribly written. No interest cared there. So that aspect failed. MODOK, awful, terrible. And look, as a one little joke or bit, it was fine. But, for him to continuously show up and just do stupid things and interrupt dialogue and, just be the running joke that he looks funny. Yeah, he looks funny. We get it at this point. The bit ran on too long. Bringing Corey Stoll back was fine, but it just was overplayed. And the MODOK fans from the comic books certainly will not be impressed by this. It was ridiculous, to be quite honest with you. It was really bad, especially near the end. I guess he was sort of redeemed, but did anyone really care? Yeah, I don't think so. So MODOK was terrible. I know some people might have liked it. At the very end, the don't be a dick, or I guess like maybe I'm not a dick anymore. Like, that was a little funny, but I mean, even at that point in the film, there was supposed to be higher stakes. I felt that Catherine Newton as Cassie Lang, I didn't love her. I didn't hate her, but I felt she was a bit muted. I felt she was a bit weak. In an MCU where we have supporting female characters, even younger ones like Zendaya, I don't feel like she could even hold a candle to like a Zendaya or Florence Pugh or some other characters that she's going to have to, if she stays around, she's going to have to try to earn screen time against. Even the new Hawkeye, I can't remember the actress's name, but even her, I don't think she even holds a candle to her. I think she's a step below these young female actresses in the MCU, so it's going to be hard for her to find footing. Maybe they need to recast the role again, because I don't think Catherine Newton is quite it. I thought she was a little bit muted. I think Michelle Pfeiffer did fine. You can see the fear in her eyes whenever she was mentioning Kang and setting that up. Paul Rudd, like I said, he did well. Jonathan Majors, to me, killed it. While I think the story could have been better, and I certainly would not have killed Kang off, and maybe he's not dead, this version of Kang, I certainly would not have killed him off. In my opinion, this should have just been our Kang. Now we're going into, let's go into the mid-credit scene. We're going into an Immortus Kang. We're going into a Rama Tut Kang. I think that's how you pronounce it. And all these, tens of thousands of Kangs that are arriving in the arena. And that's when I got very concerned. Because, look, okay, yes, the multiverse is limitless and, it is infinite. So sure, there are tens of thousands of Kangs, if not more. Fine. But it really, really dilutes the product and the character, in my opinion. It really dilutes the character. At the end of the day, at most, there should be 3 to 5 Kangs that we really fear, And I would have just done one still. I still would have just done one, to be honest with you. If you want to do a Council of Kangs, fine, it can work. Only 3 to 5. But then you looked at the character designs and they were terrible. Immortus looked terrible. Rama Tut looked terrible. The Bald Kang version looked awful. The dialogue was goofy. And the whole mid-credit scene was cringe and crazy and wild to me. It didn't make me excited at all. And my understanding, and this might change, I don't think we're seeing Kang again until Loki season 2, where they are, and by the way, that the end credit scene, the final end credit scene, does not even make any sense, because essentially what you are saying with that end credit scene is that, well, we're led to believe that now Kang is conquered, at that point in time was outside of time, but now Kang is, ahead of the TVA, is no longer the, the false gods that were there before. It is truly Kang now that's running the TVA, and Morbius would know this. Mobius, God, hopefully not Morbius, but Mobius would know this. So why would then Mobius go back in time to try to find the original Kang? It wouldn't matter. Plus, he'd feel like, wouldn't he be going against his ruler? I mean, what is going on there? Maybe you've been explained. That doesn't make sense to me. But so they're gonna go through time to find where their leader's inception was. How are they going to get away with that? That doesn't make any sense. That doesn't make any sense. They can traverse the timeline outside of the new Kang ruler's knowledge. What sense does that make? That doesn't make any sense. Someone help me out in the comments. So I am now concerned because I'm not sure outside of Loki season 2 we're getting any other Kang content until Kang Dynasty. And now it looks like Kang Dynasty is going to be a bunch of Kangs making weird decisions. That post-credit scene, the mid-credit scene, it gave me X-Men Apocalypse. He literally looked like X-Men Apocalypse. He looked like Apocalypse. And I didn't hate that movie, but I don't want to watch it again. I don't want to watch it again. So if it's going to be like that, I'm going to be like, golly. And then by the time you get to Secret Wars, you're going to be throwing like a bunch of Kangs versus a bunch of Avengers, just tournament style, and see what happens. I mean, why is anyone going to care about that? I don't see it. The MCU has a problem. We're missing Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man. We're missing Chris Evans' Captain America. We're missing these key characters at this point. Tom Holland's Spider-Man is carrying this franchise. Doctor Strange is doing fine. And then I don't think anyone really particularly loves anyone else right now. And that's a problem. There needs to be, Shuri could. Wakanda Forever was very strong, so Shuri could rise to that occasion. Shang-Chi could rise to that occasion, but I'm not sure we're getting the Shang-Chi sequel. I'm not sure we're getting Black Panther. Are they coming before Kang Dynasty or they're coming after? I think they need to push back Kang Dynasty. I think I would push it back. Well, depending on what the plot is. I don't know what the plot is. You may have to push it back because I think you still need to do another Shang-Chi and another Black Panther before you do a Kang Dynasty. But instead of doing like a Kang Dynasty, depending on what the film is, do like some sort of mid-Avengers team up, which apparently they're kind of doing with Captain America, New World Order, and Thunderbolts to a certain extent to really introduce Kang again a little bit before doing Kang Dynasty. Again, I'm not really sure what Kang Dynasty is supposed to look like at this point. I'm very confused. And I'm looking forward to it less and less. But I don't know where we're going here, people. This is a mess. This is a mess. Look, at the end of phase 1, you had the Avengers. At the end of, well, I guess technically it was it? Yeah, I think it was the Avengers that actually ended phase 1. Phase 2, I think it was technically not Ultron, but it was Ant-Man. But effectively, it was Age of Ultron. And then phase 3, it technically wasn't Endgame. It was technically No Way Home, but effectively it was Endgame. But the end of phase 4, it wasn't definitive. We don't even know. It was just a lot of setup, but for nothing. Just introducing Eternals, introducing Shang-Chi, another Black Panther movie, a Black Widow movie for reasons, and then a Doctor Strange sequel, introducing the multiverse and No Way Home just to have fun with some Spider-Mans. We're not really going anywhere, people, other than just getting more characters just to throw them in a bunch of Kangs. That's where we're headed, and I'm not in love with that. But again, I don't think it was that bad. I'm just disappointed narratively where we're headed more so than anything. But as a film, Majors carried it. The acting was still very good to me. I loved Kang so much. Literally, I loved it so much in his performance that I'm giving it a 6.2 out of 10. Narratively, I have my problems, but I'm not going to say it was a bad movie, just a disappointing movie and not quite what I expected from Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. So there you go. Those are my thoughts on Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. What are your thoughts? Comment down below. I want to know. And until next time, this has been MJ, the MJ Take, and I'm out. See you all later.